All right, welcome to another episode of the True North podcast. We got a good one today. My man, Mason Gillis. It's been a long time. We've kind of been connecting back and forth for the past few years. Shout out to our guy, Jordan Delks, who connected us. But we got so much to go over today in the sports world, in the writing world, in the professional world. But Mason, former NCAA basketball player at Purdue, as well as Duke, also just casually a published author as well, and now a professional basketball player out in Belgium. So we have a lot of journey to kind of go over, a lot of connection between the two of us in the basketball world, as well as being a writer. So Mason, super excited to have you here. Thank you for your time, and this is going to be a good one.
No doubt, man. So happy to be on here. I think that we established a great connection out in California a couple years ago. So it's been, a great journey. Finally, we were able to both put out our books. So I'm excited to talk about that, to talk about our different journeys. I'm sure there were some similarities and some differences. But yeah, like you said, I'm over here playing basketball in Hasselt, Belgium. So it's been quite a year for sure. Been some ups and downs, but we signed up for it and we're happy to be here. So I'm excited to, dive into our topics today. It'll be a fun one.
Yeah, me and Mason I think we got to do two of potentially the coolest things as a basketball player, and like for our inner child. At least
Yeah.
for me, you gave me the opportunity to like get some shots up at Duke. Like literally just feeling, I'm like, I've watched so many games here, like as a kid growing up. And then just to be in there, we're supposed to have this serious conversation, and we're all just staring at the ball rack, like, all right, like can we shoot? Can we get some threes up? And then we get to go and run the hill in LA that the prime, Kobe and Shaq era Lakers used to train at. And
Yep.
so I'm like, dude, we're like checking off the boxes here of these opportunities as a young hooper. So I
No doubt.
appreciate you for giving us that opportunity and showing us a little bit behind the scenes at Duke.
Yeah, of
Man,
course.
that was like a once in a lifetime thing for
No doubt.
me. So,
I mean,
but
for me, being at Duke, it was, a once in a lifetime thing. That was my dream growing up and never thought I'd be there. I never doubted myself, but, I just didn't ever see it really in the cards with me playing at Purdue. Purdue's family, loyal to them, same as Duke, and just throughout the transfer portal, you never know what's going to happen, right? And so I took my opportunity, and it's definitely a blessing to be able to wear the Duke jersey, but also, allow you and allow other people to kind of get the experience along with me. So that was probably the coolest thing that we did for sure.
mhm. So when I first met Jordan, one of his main stories that he kind of shared with me just about the power of the mind and how it affects us as a performer, whether it's being an athlete, whether you're leading a team, leading a family, leading a business, like the way that uh, we tend to underestimate the true power that we have was his experience with you. And when you set the record for the 3-point record at Purdue, I was curious for just to hear it from you, because I don't know if I've really got your perspective on that, of just what it was like in the months leading up to that, where you were and you're just mentally, physically, and then when that actually came out, and like you just have that performance where no matter what sport you play, you've experienced that in some capacity, that flow state where you just don't even think. It's just like everything's going in, there's nothing going on in your mind. It's just like you're straight channeling like greatness. And so I was curious of what that experience was like for you, that you could kind of share, just on your overall experience of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, it definitely goes back months in advance before that night. And for me, I've always been a worker. I've always, been the player that gets up at 6 a.m., works out, goes about their day, has practice. I'm early there. I'm early before practice, say a little bit after practice. And then more times than not, I'm back in the gym, getting shots back up at night. And so that's been my life ever since I was like a sophomore in high school. I committed to the journey, committed to the system and the process, and fell in love with it. It can be pretty cliche falling in love with the process, but like there's no other phrase or method that really gets you to where you want to go to, and just enjoying the process. And so fast forward to I'd say it was like a week or so before that night. I wasn't feeling the best, right? The season was going well, but me personally, I just wasn't performing where I thought I should. And I was pretty tough on myself at that time just because I knew, what I was capable of. And I knew that that year was a very impactful year on my future. And so I wanted to perform well. I wanted to, show everybody what I could do. And I was just putting too much weight on myself. And Jordan Delks and I, we were able to continue our weekly meetings. But the weeks leading up to that Penn State game, we really dove into my limiting beliefs. We dove into a lot of my like childhood traumas and just kind of reflected, right? We weren't really trying to go anywhere. We weren't really trying to, reinvent the wheel or make something out of nothing. It was more so just getting back to who I was. And one key thing that Jordan had me do was put up a picture of my 8-year-old self. And I found a picture with my sister and I. And I put that on my phone. And what that did for me was just kind of make myself realize that I'm still that 8-year old. I'm still that childlike person. I'm just older now, right? So how would I speak to myself? How would I speak to that little kid that's chasing his dreams and wanting to get to places? And so that also made me realize, like, wow, like I have made a long journey from that 8, 10-year old self wanting to play high school, wanting to play college. I'm at college. And so I kind of had to just regroup and reevaluate my thoughts and, my thought process, right? I needed to be more grateful of where I was at. I needed to appreciate all the work that I had done, but also, just the environment that I was around, like taking a step back and instead of, looking at everything real close in, like Jordan helped me get a bird's eye view of where I was at. And that just took a lot of weight off my shoulders and it led into the performance, right? Even on that day, I wasn't feeling very good. Basketball players and athletes, typically, if you warm up really well, you don't play that well.
Yeah.
If you warm up bad, you end up having a great game. I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is. And, but through the mind, eventually, like for me in that game, I usually wear one pair of shoes. I warm up in those pair of shoes and I play in them the rest of the game. But my legs were heavy. I wasn't sick, but I just kind of felt like I was getting sick. Went through my pregame routine like normal and had an awful warm up. Switched my shoes and then came back out. And I wasn't even focused on, like shooting well or scoring a bunch of points. I was more so focused on just playing defense and like trying to help everybody else out because I knew that I wasn't feeling my best. And so lo and behold, the work just came out. Like I spoke about, months and months and months of just work. It finally came up to be. And I really attest that to kind of knocking out the limiting beliefs, kind of getting over those hurdles and removing doubt from my mind and putting more belief in myself. So I think that that's the biggest reason I was able to get that record. So definitely a life changing, beautiful time of my life. So
Yeah. I I think that I talk about that a lot too, of how, especially when you have like high expectations for
mhm,
yourself, which is a great thing to
for sure.
have, but sometimes we aren't very kind to ourselves. And it's like, you a lot of times you can think about, okay, like how would you talk to your family member, your friend, if they had the same situation? Or
Mhm,
but when you take it a step further, and it's like, how would you parent your inner child? I think that really hits home. um, what do you think it is, at least for you, or maybe in the conversations that you've had, now being years removed from that experience and being able to share and mentor other athletes? What do you think it is about the childhood traumas and the limiting beliefs that actually becomes that block? What do you think it is about that really is the factor that holds us back? And what do you think for you is the way that you now transcend that, not just for one night, but like as now your new baseline, because of the work that you've put in?
For sure. Jordan and I talk about that a lot because, the next couple of days after I had the record, it wasn't, well, let me backtrack. It was definitely like I got appreciated and congratulated for getting the record. But like, what does that record do? It doesn't add to wins in our column. It doesn't add to anything else other than that great night. And so, like, my coaches were saying the next couple of days, hey, great job. When are you going to do it again? And so, like, having that kind of mindset as high performers, athletes, we talk about it in our book, The Moving Oasis, right? And so, what I try to, kind of help illustrate to younger players through my experiences is that you can set a goal, you can put something out there, go achieve it, but you just have to understand that that's just a checkpoint of your longer journey. Like I talked about, getting the bird's eye view rather than kind of being tunnel visioned on the day, being able to have that bird's eye view and understand that each oasis, yes, it's great to get there, but you're going to have another oasis to get to. You're going to have another goal to get to. And so that's why we always harp on trusting the process, enjoying the process, having fun, and finding joy in the mundane. I think that's what Kobe talks about. Well, I know that's what Kobe talks about. I know that's what Kyrie, Michael Jordan, like all of Serena Williams, all of the high performers that have really gotten to that next level of performance. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not doing anything crazy. It's just having a high level of nutrition, finding all the small details, understanding your body, and so, all in all, it's awareness, right? Either you have a high level of awareness or you lack awareness. And so, I think that each and every person is on their own journey. But I think that that's the most important thing. Being able to kind of, the only way to find that flow state is by removing doubt. And so,
Mm,
that's why I was able to really find that flow state in that Penn State game, was because we had done so much work on removing my doubt. Now, doubt doesn't just go away when you work on it, right?
mhm.
Its job is to creep back in and, kind of pick away at things. And so that's why I always teach my kids all the time is that, like, yes, you can get to a place where you're positive, you're confident, and you feel like you're rolling, but you have to understand that, like, the work doesn't just stop there. You don't work, work, work until things get good. You work, work, work all the way through, and that's how you grow sustainability. That's how you grow confidence and belief in yourself. And so I think that the youth is very impactful just to understand that your awareness of your belief in yourself is how you get somewhere, right? We talk about having a delusional belief in yourself, and that really just means that you have no doubt in yourself. And so I think that that was the biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing that I try to like teach to my kids is just understand that you're more than enough, right? Comparison is the thief of joy, and just attacking every single day and enjoying it, right? Because we're on a beautiful earth. God has made life for us amazing. He's given us so many opportunities to be successful. It's just up to us to really go out and attack it. So
Mm,
yeah.
I love it. I got one more basketball one before I want to move into some of the things that you've been accomplishing of recently. So obviously you got to essentially the pinnacle of what most young athletes are looking to do when it comes to your high school, going from a high school player into college, and what you were able to do, the players that you were able to surround yourself with, the experience, and all that. At what point in your high school basketball journey did you realize, like, did it really sink in that you had a real legitimate path here at the next level?
Mhm.
And was there a specific moment that you kind of felt that, or really had that sink in? And also, what did you do different, and what would you say most contributed for you that allowed you to really do that? Was there something that you felt that you were seeing and doing at the time?
Mhm.
Or was it just like a culmination of everything, the coaching, your family, the support that you had, along that journey?
Yeah, I would say it's a culmination of everything. Like honestly, there's it's there's too many things, too many people that poured into me that helped me out, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today in terms of like giving back to the youth and starting the mentor program, writing the book that the way that we did. It's all about impacting the youth because I felt like I was poured into so much by my baseball trainer, my basketball trainer, my AAU coaches, my friends, parents driving us to tournaments. There was just so many people in my life that have helped me get to the point to where I am today. And I wouldn't have ever gotten there if they didn't give me their mindset, if they didn't show me their work ethic. Both my parents getting up at the break of dawn to go work all day and then come home and take us to our tournaments and make us dinner and this, that, and the third. So I've only ever had like hardworking people in my life from a young age. My grandparents, my mom, my dad, my sister, like all I know is to work, right? And so I can't really say that there was like one moment in high school where it all clicked. I would say that from my going into high school, I played baseball, basketball, and football. And then I dropped football once I got into high school. I saw the movie Concussion, and I was just like, I am not playing football anymore. I just can't do it. And so once I got into high school, I was still focused on baseball. That was my primary sport. But I just had an itch to play basketball. That was what I really wanted to do. I wanted to go to Duke in high school. That was my dream. And so being able to, slowly give up baseball and like kind of put it away, it was tough. But I knew I was following my true passion. Like I was good at baseball and my parents and my trainer didn't want me to stop, but I knew deep down that like I was supposed to be playing basketball. I had so much more joy, so much more fun on the basketball court compared to the baseball. And so like my sophomore year, I would say, I worked out a lot for basketball, but my sophomore year was whenever I was really like every single morning, every single night, and doing things specifically to improve my basketball career. And like, for example, my sophomore year, I think I shot like, or my junior year, no, sorry, my sophomore year, I shot like 10 threes. And then my junior year, I think I shot like 50 or 60 at a 40%, 50% clip. And so, in terms of like moments, that would kind of be a moment where I was
Mhm.
like, okay, like I can shoot, I can play, on top of playing well in AAU circuits and things like that. And once I started getting out of Indiana and going to New York, Florida, California to play, and I was playing really well against these guys, that was another kind of moment. It's like, okay, cool, like these are the guys that are on YouTube or the five stars and this, that, and the third. And my team were killing these dudes. Um, and we had a pretty good team. And so that was kind of more kind of fuel to the fire, like, okay, I can really do this. And then there was one tournament. I had played baseball in the morning, and luckily, like the two tournaments were in the same. They were in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and so I played baseball in the morning, and then I made it to basketball. The game was like just about to start, and I'm changing in the car and everything, and I get there, and we're playing another good team. So like Michigan State is there, Tom Izzo's there. I think a recruit from Indiana, Michigan, and like a couple other places were there. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is my time to shine. And I ended up playing like really well. And of course, at the end of the game, I get hurt. I like messed up my ankle like really, really bad. And my parents drive me to the hospital, and my coach calls me just to like check in, see how everything was going. And he said that like Izzo came up to him afterwards, and Izzo had no idea who I was. My name wasn't, important to anybody at that time. But he was like, man, if he keeps working, he can be really good. He can play somewhere. And so I remember sitting in the back of the car, my foot like all hurt and everything, and him telling me that, I was like, okay, cool. Like that was another moment where like if Coach Izzo is saying that if I keep working, I'll be able to get there, then it's got to have some substance behind it. And so from that day on, I just kept working, kept working. I ended up getting hurt my senior year of high school. I had two knee surgeries. But at that time, I had, a decent amount of offers. a couple opportunities, but it was honestly another thing. Like we talk about, everything happens for a reason. A lot of the coaches they didn't necessarily show like doubt in me, but Coach Paint, it was obvious how invested he was in me. He was still coming to the house. He was still coming to the games to check in on me, calling me, and so I just felt respected by him, but also that like he had my back. And
Mm.
so that was the biggest reason why I committed to Purdue, just because he was um, so uncle like, so respected and so trustworthy. So that was another moment, like him showing me confidence and him showing me that like if you do the rehab, if you do everything, we got your back. And so that was the next step of my journey. I ended up going to Purdue, and the work never stopped there. It only got tougher. I redshirted my freshman year, but that was probably the best thing for me because I was able to really get my wheels back up under me, learn the system, and kind of the rest is history with my career at Purdue. It was a great time being able to get to a Final Four for the first time in Purdue history. It was a beautiful thing, and it all just comes back to awareness, right? Um, Understanding where you're at in the given moment, and being accountable, being owning your journey is what we talk about a lot as well, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to like help your ankle get better or help your knee get better or help you shoot better. It's all on you, right? And so I love that. I love that challenge. And it's a beautiful thing whenever you find joy in the process, whether you're rehabbing, whether you're going through a financial setback, whether your kids are driving you crazy, no matter what it is in life, it's just another opportunity to test your mindset, to test your perspective on things.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think when you shared a little bit more of your story with me at Duke, I a lot resonated for me because for me as a basketball player, basketball was my identity my whole life, and it didn't really shift into fitness and coaching until I got hurt. That was like the shift for me. That was where I could see my life as like, okay, this sucks, and I'm kind of losing my identity. I don't really know who I am anymore.
Yeah,
And when you're in that developmental time of your life, that's really hard. But like you said, you're like, okay, well, what is happening for me? What opportunities are opening up for me? And I kind of allowed myself to follow that. Um, so for it was very similar. A lot of ankle stuff, a lot of back stuff. I missed a whole season with back injuries, right? So, and I know that hits home for you. So you can kind of take this however you want, but what would you say was the hardest thing that you had to endure on your journey? And what are you most proud of for how you did endure that?
really just staying positive through it all, right? Staying positive through it all because, like, to give you an example, whenever we were in the doctor's office for my knee surgeries, um, for my knee, before we had the surgeries, the doctor didn't necessarily realize like who I was. He didn't. We had told him I played basketball and everything, but he just thought that I just played basketball, right? And at that time, I had already committed to Purdue, and so he walked in and kind of just like gave us the rundown of what was going on, gave us two options. It was like we can do rehab for a while and you can play your senior year, or you can we can do the surgery and you'll be good for kind of the rest of your career. And he was like, what's your plans, what are you about to do? And I was like, I'm about to go play at Purdue. And he was like, oh, like you're going to be on the basketball team there. And I was like, yes. And he said, he was like, okay, I thought that you were just going to school there. And he was like, well, with that information, we're doing the surgery now and you'll rehab for about a year or so, and then you won't have anything to worry about. And so like in that moment, he's a pretty brash doctor. So he just gave it to us as it was. There was no sugarcoating. And I looked at my mom and I was like, well, nobody died. And, it looks like we're going to be getting the surgery and going through it. So like in that moment, we could have gone one of two ways. We could have been real sad, beaten up, down that I had to get surgery and going to miss my senior year, or we could say good and attack the moment and understand that I'm not losing my knee. It's just going to take some time to get healed. And so that moment was probably one of the hardest that I've been through. And then like my back injury in college, that was tough. But it all just makes me aware of like basketball can be taken away from you at any moment, right? And that's for any of us, right? Your job can be taken away from you. Anything in life is precious. And
Mm,
so understanding that and going through what I've gone through has just kind of opened my eyes up to always be grateful, always be appreciative of what you're able to do. Because like right now, I just want to walk, and then I'll be able to play. But going through my ankle injury right now, every single day it's waking up and having to hop around and figure out how to do things on one leg in a completely different country, but it's exactly what I signed up for. It may not be the outcome that I want, but I can't turn on myself and not appreciate the process in a bad moment, right? We know what duality is. There is no good or bad. It just is what it is. And so, kind of keeping that mindset, just an acceptance mindset, an abundant mindset that I am okay. I'm more than a basketball player. And so, maybe this is just the season where I pursue my other interests and I, give back to the youth and impact others. And then, whenever God says that I can play basketball again, my ankle will be healthy and, I'll go out there and attack the game like I always have. So, it's just understanding where you're at and being okay with it, not trying
yeah.
to fight the universe, not trying to force things, just doing your best every single day.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, that competitive fire can sometimes be, it's a great thing, but sometimes when you, like you said, if you get really in that tunnel and you lose that ability to zoom out and realize that, this is just a game, this is a part of me, but there's so much more to me as a person, there's so much more that I can do, and impact that I can make. So I think, for you long term, you've had the ability to sharpen so many more of your skills.
Hmm.
And speaking of that, I wanted to go into a little bit of the process for you as a writer, which is, it's a very cool conversation for me because, you don't see too many people in our world of sports and athletics and training that are taking the time to kind of go and pour into that side of the artistic
Yes,
flow.
for sure.
So I actually talked about in my book, about, and this is something we've probably both talked about with Jordan, is like the root of enthusiasm, right? Entheos and the God within, like the parts of you, those that inner child that was just naturally drawn to things as a kid before you knew what was socially acceptable or what you should do. This is just a natural inclination.
Hmm.
And some of the things that I noticed in myself as I went through this process was I love to write. I wrote poems and stuff as a little kid, and I just thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Um, Played basketball, obviously, so you have that connection with the athletics and team. I love to play 2K or NBA Live even before 2K, and I found it was almost had more fun doing the dynasty mode and doing the drafts and like building a team and being like, this point guard would play really well with this guy, and like building that. And when you look at all the things by itself, you're like, oh yeah, those are just random things. But then as you look at it, as you evolve, you're like, oh, I'm passionate about putting people in the right place to succeed, right? Building a team and being able to communicate through writing and being able to then also go out and be physical and really push my body to the limits. And like, you only got one body. Like, how do you take care of it? So when you look at all the things together, it's like, oh, that actually makes so much sense of why I am where I am. As you started writing, did you find that you had a lot of things like little hidden signs as you were a kid growing up? Or was it something that was like completely new and a little bit like a little scary, like a little bit foreign that you're like, all right, I don't know if I can do this, but like I trust it. I'm curious how that was for you, just coming from high level athlete into a completely different side of the human experience.
Yeah, I liked how you talked about how we're not necessarily taught fear, or we're not naturally fearful of things, right? In our childlike spirit, we're curious. We want to do everything and kind of see how everything goes. And Jordan and I talk about this story of a man kind of going out to check on his daughter at the swing set, and the daughter picks up a snake, and it's like she's holding it and smiling and having fun, and the dad freaks out because he's had bad experiences with a snake, and he's read things and seen things that are bad, so he has a negative connection with the snake. But the child, she has no pre-existing knowledge of a snake is quote unquote bad, and so she's joyful while he's fearful.
Mm.
Same situation. The man has been taught to fear the snake. The child hasn't been taught that yet, right? We naturally love as humans, and hate and fear is taught. And so, like for me, going into the book, like I was not necessarily taught that writing a book was tough, but just from society, it seems that writing is hard, and it seems like such a far thing to do in writing a book, right? We hold authors and those type of people at very high standards because we think it's so far off, and we've been taught that we can't necessarily do what other people do. And so that's like one of my things that I try to kind of push to my kids is that have no fear, have no doubt. Understand that if you just put your foot into the fire or into the pool, however you want to say it, you'll get used to it. You'll knock down those barriers. You'll get more knowledge of how to go about things. And so that's how we went about the book. I was fearful of writing a book because I never really liked papers. I never really enjoyed English. I've always enjoyed reading, but I never liked having to put my thoughts down on paper. I can speak and I can talk, but having to formulate sentences and make everything sound good and proper, like I'm not a quote unquote writer, but I do have a lot to talk about. And so it was great being able to write the book with Jordan. Had him already being an author and him having a lot of knowledge about mindset and psychology and just how humans work. It was great to have a partner to be able to go through things and kind of. There was multiple times where I was like, man, like I don't know if I'm doing this right, and he was
Hmm.
like, don't worry about being right. Just be who you are. Speak how you want to speak. Write down different thoughts, and we'll take it step by step to eventually put the book together because I really enjoyed our process. We met damn near every single week just to talk about how we wanted to structure it, and then we continue to meet every week about each chapter. And I really enjoyed the book writing process. It was a lot easier than what I thought. It wasn't easy as a whole, but once I got over my fear, just like the father getting over his fear of a snake, you realize it's not that bad, and you kind of like look back. It's like, man, I wish I would have did this a couple months ago, or last year, or the year before. And I think that it applies to all of us and everybody's different situation, right?
Mm.
If you're fearful of something, or you're scared to risk, or scared to kind of push the boundary, what you want is right on the opposite side of that, right? What you want in life is right on the opposite side of cringe, posting that video,
Hmm.
or just whatever it is in your case. Continue to push the boundaries because whatever you want is right on the other side of that boundary. And I'll add to that. Last year at Duke, Coach Shire, he gave us a word in Chinese. It's called Kaizen, and it basically means obstacle is the way. And so that was kind of our memo, our MO the entire year of just face each and every obstacle, whether it was the team, whether it was our own mental battles, no matter what it was, just face the obstacle head on. And so again, I've taken all of that knowledge from Coach Paint, my youth mentors, Coach Shire, and that's what's in the book, right? Being able to get over those adversities, understand that, enjoying the process, all of that culmination is kind of our mindset. Jordan, mine, we have a lot of similarities in how we speak. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I agree. I felt the same way. Like it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, but there were definitely moments where you feel a little stuck, or you feel like, I don't know if I should share this. Like it's very vulnerable, it's like
Very
now
wonderful.
so much,
That's
so many people are going to know things about me that like previously no one knew. It's a weird, strange feeling. um, I'm curious, since you released the book, what's been like the one compliment or review or feedback or just something that happened for someone else,
mhm.
that they shared with you? What's been like, is there one or two that really like stuck with you that you're like, dang, that's crazy. Like I was able to do that, you know?
Yeah, to add to your point, I think the fear and kind of like not knowing if you're getting stuck and like if you're being too vulnerable or you're outing something that you don't really want to put out there, that was definitely a big factor of mine. And I spoke to Jordan about it, and he just reassured me that like, dude, like if you eventually don't want something going out, we'll take it out, but
Mhm.
be open, kind of put everything out there so that we have everything to work with, all of the knowledge that is in both of our minds. And he just reminded me that we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it to carry on the word of God, to carry on our experiences and our successes. And so once he got me kind of outside of myself, it allowed me to open up and really kind of like get grooving in that aspect. And understanding that like it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist, and I really wanted everything to be right in the book. I think that that was a hurdle for me for sure. Just trying to not worry about what people are going to think. Right? We're not doing it so people can judge it. We're doing it to impact a couple people because we're not trying to impact the whole entire world. Right? We want to go deep in intention, high level execution with a small group, and then we'll grow from there. And that's kind of how I've handled my mentor group, right? I wanted to start out with just a couple kids and really give my all to them, get better at being a coach, and just take it step by step by step, um, and the entire time enjoying the process. But I think writing the book was a huge eye opener to me. Again, just like the record breaking, like that month was an eye opener for me to just like release doubt and release those childhood blockages. Writing this book was another hurdle for me because I don't really like speaking on camera. I don't really like doing videos of myself. Like all of that is not. I will say it's just awkward. Everybody kind of has their own feeling about being in front of a camera, and I'm used to it at this point. Talking to media in college and things like that, but putting your words and thoughts on a book and it being out there forever and you never really knowing who's going to read it or what their true thoughts are until they tell you. But I think that I've had a couple friends and a couple of like family friends, parents like reach out to me. Um, One grandma that my mom works with her daughter. She reached out to my mom, just kind of talking about how the 1% better every single day has helped her, and she's going through rehab and cancer and stuff like that. Like getting those messages from a bunch of people, it's been amazing. Just to understand that like I was fearful of what I was putting out. I was judging myself. I was kind of worried what people are going to think, and then kind of getting that back end confirmation of it is helping people. People are really digesting the word and like working with it because we set up the book a little bit differently than a lot of books. At the end of each chapter, there's some of our curriculum, some of what we take our kids through and our executives through. So, I really think that that's what separates our book a little bit, just allowing people to read through it, but also give them action steps to be able to digest it a little bit easier. So, yeah, definitely getting that confirmation, getting that feedback from people has helped me feel better about all of the stuff that I was worried about putting in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm sure you've had where you realize you inspired people through your athletics, and you're signing jerseys and you're volunteering your time and like really making an impact and seeing like the youth really feel inspired. But like when you do it, there's something about doing it with your words. Like it's very intimate. It's a very deep connection
Mhm.
between people that they kind of get to be having a glimpse of how you think. And it's very cool, and I know you like to read too, and it's like we have access to such great thinkers minds, and what a blessing that is that we can literally take 30 minutes and get so much knowledge. And so to be able to feel like we're contributing back to that and the stage that we are now, and who knows in 20 years what stories we'll have to share.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful. And I definitely agree with a lot of the things. And Yeah, I had some really cool ones too. Like one of the guys that was at one of the retreats I went to, he's from Russia. He moved
Okay.
to America and started a business. He's a professional ballroom dancer and he started a dance studio.
Awesome.
And he messaged me. He said that this is the fastest English language book that he's read, and I was
Yeah.
like, "That's freaking cool!" Like,
That's awesome.
like, I feel honored for that one. So yeah, it's nice when you get those messages. You're like, oh, you never know who's gonna resonate, and that's not up to us. That's beyond us.
Exactly.
So
I think just being able to put out helpful knowledge and encouraging knowledge is what the world needs more of. Like for me, whenever I was playing at Purdue, we always had the option to put a word on the back of our jersey, and it goes a little bit with like my mom. My mom, her middle name is Joy, and so I always put Joy on the back of my shirt. One, to honor her, but also to just kind of have that as my message to the world is like we got to find more joy in our daily life. And I think that everybody needs to hear that. So I think, what we're doing is a great thing and it's for other people. We're here to serve and we're here to give back. Just like people served us and people gave back to us. And the only option is to kind of keep the cycle going. So
for sure. One thing I wanted to mention that you brought up awareness a few times, and that's something I speak on a lot with the people that I work with and mentorship is the awareness gives you now the opportunity to share something or to take that step and kind of face the fear or choose that like Kaizen mentality obstacles away. If you don't have the awareness, then you're not really putting yourself in a position to potentially succeed or be impactful. And it's like
exactly.
that awareness is usually a gift that comes from life experience or a mentor that can kind of give you a different perspective. But one thing that I think that you did really well with everything that you're saying is when you have that awareness, I think everyone's kind of looking for someone to go first.
Hmm.
And, it happens a lot of times at like an in-person event where like one
Exactly.
person raises their hand and asks the question, and then 10 people like take a sigh of relief because they're like, oh,
Yeah,
I wanted to ask that question, but I was too scared. So it's like when we have the awareness, we have the opportunity to go first and write
yes,
something that's scary or vulnerable. And I think that's kind of the gift that we have. And it's scary and it can definitely have fear. It can have a little bit of tension. And like you said, usually right on the other side of that is what we're looking for. It's what we're seeking, is what we're
literally.
curious about. And so that I think for me, that was the book was almost an exercise of that, of like, okay, there's a lot of things I know I might get some feedback, I might get some pushback, but you know, if they want to if they want to tell the story, they can put that in their book. This is my book. And so I think you kind of had a similar thing where you're choosing to go first, and I think that's something that is very admirable, and I think that it really does leave a great trail of impact for the people who are looking for that and they're receptive to it.
Yep, for sure.
Well, I'll leave with one fun one. I think I know a lot of the basketball players that I coach and work with in strength. We got some two incredible rookie seasons from two of your teammates. Uh,
I know, right?
right with um, I think we talked a little bit about it, but for you with playing with the level of players that you did in that season at Duke, and you were kind of sharing with us like the battles that you guys had at practice, and now seeing some of those guys just really take off. What's that been like for you? And do you have any stories with any of your teammates at Duke that are now really just taking that next step in the NBA?
Mhm. Yeah, I applaud them for all the work that they've put in. just like I was talking about a little bit earlier about kind of my journey, like their journey, getting to know them has been very similar, right? Between Cooper, like there was five guys that I played with last year. The whole starting five got drafted, and
Yeah.
so being able to like work out with them from the moment I got on campus, me and Tyrese, we were in the gym, and just seeing his level of work ethic every single day. There's no reason why he isn't in the place he's been in, and his mindset is amazing. Along with Cooper, Khan, Sion, Kaman, like all five of those guys, they just have a great attitude about them, right? Every single day, being able to show up, even on those tough days, we all had each other's back. I can go from the beep test, from all of us falling on the floor from being exhausted, to Cooper being the last one up and us kind of like pushing him along to get him crossed because we've already like missed our like two times or whatever. But we weren't just like sitting over to the side cheering him on; like we were right there with him, and him showing his kind of heart and his desire and diving across the finish line. Those little things are why we were successful last year. Whether it's the VO2 max and pushing each other to get the best score on the team, all the way from us sitting at the dining hall eating breakfast every single morning, right?
Hmm.
We had such a routine and such a system put in place that there wasn't any question of what today was going to be like, right? Every single day you had to show up or you were going to get embarrassed in practice. And, we're all fighting for minutes, fighting for time. So every day was a dogfight, right? Whether that was just us shooting before practice and we're competing against one another to see who can hit three in a row first or see who can get around the horn first. Like, everybody's talking trash. Like it was very high competitive, but great spirits at the same time. Right, the coaches did a great job of understanding our capabilities and the opportunity that we had in front of us for that year. And so I can't really like isolate any one story because the whole
Yeah.
year was like a constant theme of how we were going about our business. Right, everybody knew the knew what we had to do to get to where we wanted to go to, but you still have that doubt, you still have that kind of uncertainty before you get there. And so we were all just we kept telling each other that like it's up to us. We're only going to be as good as we want to be, right? If we start worrying about this, that, and the third that's outside of Duke, then we're just taking away from our own efforts and our own improvement and just like I said, enjoying the process, right?
Mm.
Every single day when we would bring it together to huddle, I'd always say it's another great day to have a great day. And I think the guys caught on to that, and they some of them would say it before I would say it in the huddles, and so um, that was my job, just to come in and kind of be the vet, understand that through the tough days and the good days, like you just kind of got to have a good spirit, find the fun in it, like we've talked about. But yeah, Duke was a very, very special year for me. Being able to connect with those guys and now watch them, succeed. Like Khan is the best 3-point shooting rookie ever. Like that's incredible. I know a lot of people are surprised, but we watched him work out at Duke all the time, and there was very few workouts where he's missing more than two or three shots in a row, right? And so we were all kind of just competing against each other, and I think that's why everybody's level went up because we were all super focused. The coaches were super focused, and we didn't have any like BS. We didn't have any team problems or bad chemistry. Like that was for the birds. We weren't messing with that. From the moment everybody got on campus, we all kind of mixed together, and from there on out, it was a great season. So
Mm.
very happy to see what they're doing right now.
Yeah. Does that like you knew the level more than anyone else knew, right? Because you're like behind the scenes seeing the work that gets put in. But do like the level of success, does that like is there a level of surprise of like, dang, they're good, but like this is incredible, or was that like, nah, these guys like they're built different?
No, honestly, like they're built different. Whether that was from the beginning of the year, like Khan took a little bit for him to kind of get going. Cooper came in, he came in hot, but Khan kind of he came in and kind of it took a little bit of time for him to get comfortable. But boy, once he got comfortable, like there was no stopping him. Like
Mm.
once he realized who he was and where he was at, like he took the bull by the horns, and never let go. So I'm proud of them for doing that, and I think that there is no surprise, honestly, because I would be taken away from their work ethic, taken away from their mindsets if I acted like, oh wow, I'm surprised that they're doing what they're doing. But it goes back to just everything that we've kind of talked about, and they are the epitome of it. They've
Mm.
kept themselves in that strong mindset. Cooper and I, we were roommates last year on all of the road games, and there was times where he was pissed because the media was on his ass for this, that, and the third, whatever it was. And I just kind of try to encourage him, like, don't worry about that, like block out all the noise, and like especially, I think it was after the Kansas game, we got back, and I just told him, like, man, like, don't worry about one loss. Like, you were going to go on to like such greater things, and this was the beginning of the season. And I just told him, like, remember, like, always remember who you are and stay true to who you are, right? Through the good and the bad. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Don't let people tell you that, you're really, really good. And don't let people tell you that you're really, really bad. Like, stay even kill, stay right in the middle. And I think Aaron Rodgers said it. He was like, why would you take advice? Why would you take criticism from somebody you would never ask for advice from?
Mm.
And once I heard that, like that was a huge thing, that it just gives you the freedom and the opportunity to be able to shut out some of the voices, because you have that thought process in your mind of, okay, if I wouldn't ask him for advice, then I don't need to be concerned with his criticism. So I think that's a very powerful thing as well.
I love that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you set the record for the VO2 max test. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, I did. Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that's just straight. That's just straight dog, right? That's just straight heart. Like, you know?
yeah, I mean, yeah, you could say that. I basically, you get up onto the treadmill, and they strap you like some like sticky monitors, put a mask over, and like before it, it was basically like hell week, where it was just conditioning all week, mile test, beep test, strength and conditioning, whatever it was. And on that Friday, I was trying to ask everybody like what their scores were, and then I asked the coaches like what were the past people's scores. So I got that kind of in my brain, and the record was like 13, 15, 13, 30. And so I was like, finally, it's my David Goggins moment. I
Yeah.
get to die on a treadmill. And from a young kid, I've always watched David Goggins and Eric Thomas, and I just really, try to embody their mindsets. And so finally, I got to the treadmill, and I'm on it and I'm running. The first 10 minutes they weren't too bad, right? Because the treadmill speeds up on its own and it inclines on its own. And so my goal was, I got to get past like 13:30. I got to set the record, to prove to myself. Really, that was like what it was, and not really like proving to anybody else, just kind of showing that I am who I've always said I was. And so I get up on the treadmill in 10 minutes, 12 minutes, get to the 13 minutes, and like it's starting to get really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I knew that I just had to like, I had the thought of, um, David Goggins saying that once you've given your all, you still have like 40, 60% left to give. Right. And so I just kept saying that to myself, putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. And eventually I got to the 14-minute mark. And like, if I probably would have taken one more step, I would have fell face first. But definitely hearing that 14 minutes, I was like, yes, I did it.
Yeah.
Proved myself. I got the record. And after that, like I was dead the rest of the day. But honestly, just doing that, on top of a couple other things, yeah. Jordan talks about like me winning the locker room. Coach Shire had given us like a piece of paper and then asked us a bunch of questions. And there were questions like, who do you want the starting five to be? Who do you want the captain to be? Who's a foxhole guy? Like, who's somebody you would want on your side? This, that, and the third. And a couple of days later, he came back to me and he said that like my name was on top of the list and everything. And so he was like, "You're the captain." And I was like, "Right on." And I think he wanted me to be a little bit more surprised and like, kind of uh, a little bit more emotional about it.
Mhm.
But like, I knew who I was, and I wasn't like going to Duke to try to prove to anybody that I was something more than myself. I just showed up every single day, and stayed true to who I was, and I think that the guys honored that. So, like I talked about, not being surprised about Cooper and Khan's performance right now. I wasn't surprised about me getting the captain. I was very appreciative and grateful of it, but like I knew that that was my role. I knew that that's who I was there to be, and so again, just like the book, getting confirmation of being true to yourself pays off. It was the same thing at like Duke. Being true to myself paid off to have the guys gain their respect and just be appreciated by them. So I think it's impactful. And like what I want everybody to take away from that story is don't prove to anybody else. Don't feel like you have to perform for other people. Prove to yourself every single day. Honor your word and, take on your own challenges. Don't try to do things for other people. Serve other people, love other people, but really harp on, taking care of what you got to take care of.
I love that. Yeah, I felt the same way in a lot of things. It's like you could kind of tell when people are expecting you to be like emotional or excited, but like deep down, you know how much you've put in to be that, and you're not trying to be anything other than who you are, and know what you can really contribute. And those stories of you like pouring into Cooper when he needed that mentor. Like the role that you can play that's bigger than basketball, and that's why you can write the book, right? That's why you can mentor. And I've seen all the awesome stuff you guys have done with the athletes and the different teams and organizations. So, um, and now, being a professional, like you're a pro, you take that to the next level. And I know you've had a lot of ups and downs with it, and you're still battling, and you still got the the same, kind of going back to all the times that you've been injured, and the mental place that takes you in, and the different things that it opens up for you. Um, I'll leave with this, I guess, with everything you've got going on now. And I think it really did resonate with me, and is a good reminder for me of when you do have that adversity, see what doors are opening. And for you, you've done really well with that. um, as a professional athlete and author and mentor, and like you said, you have a lot of other things and seeds that you're planting. What are you most excited about right now in your life, and things that you're looking forward to in the future? Is there anything really um, shifting, or just kind of give them a little bit of just what is firing you up right now?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, what's firing me up right now is just trying to get to be able to walk again. I got hurt here at the end of preseason. So it was around like the October, it's like September area. I ended up having surgery in late November. So that's like the main thing right now. The main priority is just getting my ankle healthy. I think we talk about everything happens for a reason. And so with me getting hurt, that's led me to be able to pursue my entrepreneurial interests, whether that being, getting more involved within the book and getting that outreach, getting the book to everybody, being able to work with the mentor program. I was able to start that up, I think really at the beginning of the year, towards the end of January, or sorry, towards the end of December, beginning of January, I got that going. So that's been great to be able to work with kids and kind of pour into them all of my, failures, experiences, successes, kind of just, giving them that mindset, giving them that like insight of what I've been through so that they know how to move and operate and think through the good and the bad. But really, just honing in on my personal development, getting closer with God, on top of pursuing my real estate interests, working on a couple of projects for my community back at home. And then, really just trying to find the small things to enjoy every single day. So getting my ankle healthy, that's number one. And then pursuing my kind of youth impact, community impact, and then my real estate interests. So those three things are at the forefront of my mind right now. And then once my foot gets healthy, basketball will always be the main thing until I really can't play anymore. But right now, it's just kind of a slow down period. Everything happens for a reason. So just sticking with that mindset, sticking with positivity, and just trying to impact the youth, impact everybody else. So
I love it. I love it. I'm really excited to share this one, obviously with the listeners, but with my younger athletes as well. This is one that I've been kind of hyping up a little bit, and I'm sure there's a lot they can take away.
yeah,
It's been really awesome to get to know you over the past few years, and your story has resonated a lot with me and some of my past experiences around sports and athletics, along with seeing you do what you've been able to do with your experiences and the ups and the downs. So it's very impressive, and I'm excited to keep following along with the journey and just seeing the impact that you can make.
thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you for sure. We got big things ahead. I know that, no doubt. We might have to collaborate on a book sometime. You never know. You never know.
we
So
we got a lot to say. I'll I will link the your info in this episode in the notes. I'll also link Mason's book, so you guys can pick that up and really get a little bit more of a deep dive on some of the things that we went into today. Again, Mason, thank you for your time, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
no doubt, man. Thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it. And everybody out there, get my book, get Brady's book, and that's really all you need. So,
That's it.
yeah, those two books set you up for life.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.